Welcome to Agribiotech, where the focus is on the role of biotechnology in the development of agriculture in Nigeria. I am Lara Afolayan. Last week on the program, we saw how South Africa, which is the 9th largest producer of genetically modified crops in the world, began its journey and how this development has worked for its agricultural sector. Today, the focus shall be on South Africa to see additional benefits the country has derived from the use of this technology for agriculture. I will be speaking with stakeholders in the South African agricultural biotechnology industry while also taking some of your meals. As in our tradition on the program, we begin with recent developments in agricultural biotechnology around the world. 233 scientists around the world say continued applications of most widely used insecticides should be restricted. The scientists, led by David Golson of the University of Sussex in the United Kingdom, feel that neonicotinoids, which belong to a family of neuroactive insecticides, which were first developed in the 80s, represent present dangers to the survival of numerous pollinators and pest predators that are vital to humanity. The scientists warn that failure of countries to respond to this call could result in a continued decline of beneficial insects and the loss of services they provide, alongside a significant fraction of the biodiversity heritage of future generations. In India, researchers have developed an early flowering transgenic variety of mustard. Researchers at Delhi-based Terry School of Advanced Studies figured out the role of a regulatory MIR172 gene belonging to the microRNA family. It is present in functionally varied forms in Indian mustard and is responsible for a number of traits, including timing of flowering. Scientists have been working on improving crop varieties by modifying plant genes to make them more adaptable in changing climates. Reports say the development is important as Indian mustard is a major oilseed crop in the country, and due to changing climate, the number of cold days required for full plant cycle has reduced. Chinese scientists have successfully grown and harvested rice in the deserts of Dubai after developing a strain that allows the crop grow in salt water. A team of scientists led by China's father of hybrid rice, Wan Longping, has already started growing the crop in diluted seawater at home and is now bringing the technique to the Middle East, where fresh water is too precious to use for growing water-intensive crops. The rice harvest, which was planted in January on the outskirts of the city, far exceeded scientists' expectations. The high yield, which reported 7,500 kilograms per hectare, compared with the global average of 3,000 kilograms per hectare, has encouraged scientists to expand the project. The goal is to cover around 10% of the United Arab Emirates, which has a total area of 83,600 square kilometers with paddy fields. Promoters of biotechnology in Nigeria have met with their counterparts in South Africa to learn from the South African experience in the use of biotechnology for agriculture. The African Agricultural Technology Foundation, ATF, in collaboration with Africa Bio, a South African-based biotechnology stakeholders association, co-hosted a study tour of South African genetically modified crop fields to promote knowledge sharing with regulators from African countries with emerging biosafety and biotechnology systems. The tour began with an interactive session between the Nigerian and South African sides. A knowledge-sharing session between regulators and practitioners from countries with new and emerging biotechnology and biosafety systems and their South African colleagues who are well skilled in the conduct of field trials and commercialization of genetically modified crops.
But currently what we have picked up is that, well, most of the farmers that we have conducted the trials on, they prefer, going for the GM. And then as a province, well, it's fine. We will buy that and then we'll give them the seeds. Those ones who are interested in non-GM, it's okay. We'll buy that and then we give them. And then we are not saying that, well, we are going to promote any of the technology, but whatever farmers are interested in, and then whatever that we can see that, well, is the best interest of the farmer, we do support.
One of the successes of biotechnology in this country is that our provincial government is really, really taking a lead in driving some of the most innovative initiatives.
We didn't have a negative biodiversity impact. The negative impact that we experienced came when the farmers were now spraying, because when they spray, they get rid of all our biodiversity, including the things that we don't want to get rid of. And we've done a lot of work, and a key thing in the global discussions has been pollinators. There's been a lot of work that there's a global decline in pollinators. And when we've done those studies and we have checked in South Africa, and I think if you look under the global pollination assessment, there are 4 studies. They could only do 4 African studies for the global assessment. And all those studies were done and conducted in South Africa. And there was no correlation between the pollinators and our deployment of GM technology. Agriculture and everything agriculture has an impact on the environment. And we haven't been able to pick out, with all of the studies that we have undertaken, an additional pressure that is coming from the GM itself.
Talks centered on the status of biotechnology in Africa, the biosafety regulatory system in South Africa, environmental risk assessment of genetically modified organisms in South Africa, as well as the national bioeconomy strategy, its implementation, and the Department of Science and Technology's role in the country's biosafety system. Technology developers and traders in the GM seeds industry also shared their perspective.
The issue is the rules must be clear and must be applied fairly to everyone for the benefit of the consumer or the end user. Because even though the local company may gain an advantage that season normally, then because there's no fairness in the market, the price of the seed in that season for the local farmers is very high, which means that the local farmers and the consumers also get negatively affected. As it has been seen, where there's no monopoly or fair competition, then the consumer and the farmer eventually benefit. So yes, it does happen sometimes that is a trade issue, but at the same time, it's the reality of life and the reality of business. What the industry always asks for is for transparency. To say the rules must not change when the game has started.
We find ourselves in a democratic dispensation where there is room for all voices. And it's not the intention of the regulatory system to suppress any particular voice. The only obligation that we have as regulators is to ensure that we have fully complied to the prescripts of the Act and the objectives of the Act. So we as an example, there's a requirement for public consultation. If there's a view from the antis or the activists, then they should show that we've not complied. And any court of law or any appeals process then will assess whether we've complied.
At the end of the discussions, participants agreed the talks were highly beneficial. The promoters of biotechnology in Nigeria are positive it will help in spreading the word on the usefulness of the technology in agriculture back home in Nigeria.
And I believe that by the time we go back, whatever we have learned from South Africa, we should be able to sensitize our colleagues back home in the agricultural sector, the general public, on the issues of the emerging trends on biotechnology and biosafety in the world. So I believe in Africa, by the time we go back, maybe South Africa is taking the lead. I don't have much information on biotechnology development in Africa, but from what I heard earlier, that you are producing more than 88% of your maize from biotechnology. I don't think any other African country has taken that giant stride, and I would like to commend you for that, because if Nigeria is able to adopt biotechnology, of course, Africa has made a giant leap.
The study tour couldn't have come at a better time. Now that government in Nigeria is actually developing strategies to diversify the economy from oil to agriculture to ensure food security, create jobs, and reduce poverty. It is actually therefore imperative to adopt modern technologies that will increase productivity per unit area. And the State Council acknowledged the enormous benefits of modern technology and development in crops that are tolerant to both biotic and abiotic stresses. A lot of challenges are actually in the industry, and modern technology could be used to solve them. The addition, folami ones, tuta, toluta, low use of some varieties of crops, actually very worrisome. And modern tools of biotechnology could be deployed to tackle most of these challenges and generate high-quality, disease-free planting materials that will revolutionize the seed industry.
So far, we've been working on trying to release BT cowpea, BT cotton, and biofortified raw vitamin A sorghum, which were developed through the efforts of biotechnology. For us in Nigeria, we have no option other than taking biotechnology seriously, because by 2050, Nigeria will be the third most populous country in the world. And the issues of food and nutrition security is becoming very important. You are aware the world is becoming more food and nutrition insecure. And we can only solve this problem through the use of biotechnological tools.
If biological knowledge cannot be applied to improve crop production, then the research, agricultural research, there is no reason to continue. Agricultural science, crop improvement are based on biology. Agriculture is only an applied science. So this is what most of our peoples in our countries don't take into focus. Crop improvement is about genetic manipulations. Few decades ago, we were doing it almost in the dark, but applying only biostatistics to say we got 1 gene, 2 gene, 3 genes. But now with the molecular genetics, we know exactly where the genes are located. And we can take gene from anywhere to any place.
We have made tremendous progress in Nigeria, where this is all to cap that progress up with the commercialization of GM products in Nigeria. So we hope that this learning and sharing experience will add value to whatever it is that we've been doing in Nigeria.
These discussions are held from time to time in South Africa. They are to give an overview of agricultural biotechnology issues in relation to its economic development potentials for farming on the continent in promotion of food security. Next, I get to speak with the head of Department of South Africa's Gauteng Provincial Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, Nakanipo Nkotwana, on the impact of biotechnology on the country's agricultural sector. And joining me is Lankanipo Nkutwana, the head of Department, Gauteng Provincial Department of Agriculture and Rural Development in South Africa. It's good to have you join us on the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much to have me here.
What is the state of biotechnology for agriculture in South Africa?
The state of biotech in South Africa, although I'm based in Gauteng, I think we are, as a country, we are progressing very well. In fact, it's a well-known record that almost 80% of our maize comes out of the biotech process. We take biotech very serious, given the challenges that are brought in by climate change, and we think that we need to make sure that we invest in it. We invest in biotech. Even the younger generation has got to be involved in it.
In what areas of agriculture is biotechnology being used here?
For now, we are focusing on agriculture because my department is really focusing on that we must make sure that we use biotech to ensure that we improve on our yield, because our focus is more on ensuring that we deal with urban poverty. That's our focus for now, but of course there are other projects in other government departments which I may not be in a position to articulate now, because my focus is more on agriculture and make sure that there's food security.
What has been the impact on maize production in South Africa so far?
The impact has been huge. I must indicate that most of the farmers that we have are exporting their maize out there in the world, and we have got also young farmers that are participating in the process. As a department in Gauteng province, we have, since the beginning of this project, 540 students that were funded just to do biotech. So you can see that we are serious and we want to make sure that we deal with the issue of food security very seriously.
What steps were taken to adopt this technology in South Africa?
As the government of South Africa has been, as you know, that we are signatory to quite a number of international protocols, is that it is important that we move to another level. So led by the National Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, we have been working together to ensure that we also lead in this particular area, given the size of this province as well as the whole country, but also our strategic location as a country where we are of the view that agriculture should play a critical role in developing our economy. I'm sure you have heard that towards the end of 2017, we're out of technical recession because of agriculture. Then the issue of technology was also key in ensuring that we are able to outpace the pressures of climate change, that regardless of the challenges we have as farmers, but we are still able to produce and be able to save the country from the embarrassment of recession.
What was the reception like initially when this technology was being introduced into the country?
I must say that the reception has been resounding, but of course, I think it's important to also go back that the majority of people, of South Africans, are not participating in the process, but given our history where we've been, that's why now as we move forward, it's important that we introduce quite a number of people, especially young people from the disadvantaged communities who happen to be Black and African in particular, to participate in it. Because the issue of technology is not something that has been in our communities for some time. Our view is that we have to drive transformation, because the Black majority are the one that must benefit from this process. Hence, now we have got even the Black farmers that are being involved in this process. And our view is that as much as you have the commercial farmers, majority of them are from what we call previously advantaged communities. Now we want to turn the tide and make sure that let those who were previously disadvantaged participate and hear about it. But given that now we have got a younger generation that understand technology, understand some of the challenges and opportunities brought by climate change, you have to get the youth involved, because most of the older people may not understand some of these things. But of course, we are going to train them and make sure that they participate in numbers. But those that have been involved in the process and they've been farmers, well-to-do farmers, we do not have a problem with them, but it's just that we have to go back to basics, make sure that the black majority is benefiting. And that's when we will say, as a country and as a province, we've done our part, and all South Africans now are benefiting out of the new dispensation.
Was there any form of resistance initially, and how was it managed?
Of course, the issues have always been affordability. How do we actually make sure that people participate? I think with a great deal of explanation to the farmers and those that are involved in the process, I don't think that there was a problem. But the issue was that who's then going to fund it? Hence, as government, we are leading and pioneering the introduction of biotechnology in agriculture to ensure that we address the issue of food insecurity. So government is putting its money, it's investing so that those who cannot afford are able to participate. And when they are able to actually run their business on their own, because most of them are also business persons, they must be able to generate money for themselves at the same time while feeding the society. So I think that's the role that we have played as government to make sure that becomes a success. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even taken off without government providing leadership and assisting those farmers that could not be able to participate in the process.
How has this technology helped the agricultural sector to contribute more to gross domestic product?
It's done well. I must indicate that, as I indicated earlier, that as you know, that since 2008, when we experienced a global recession, we have been experiencing that problem as a country. And this province contributes 34% to the GDP in the whole country. We had also to make sure that we also contribute together with other provinces in the country, and with the introduction of this technology, we're able to take the country out of recession. And I must indicate that agriculture now is playing a key role, and even the current cabinet, led by President Ramaphosa, now is championing the issue of agriculture. And for us, is the availability of land and making sure that the land we have, we use it productively, and those that want to participate are given necessary support. So the issue of, that's why our challenges now is food insecurity and availability of land. So the country is just dealing with that. Any land that is available for agriculture, let's use it to make sure that we feed our people, deal with the issue of hunger, deal with the issue of poverty, and make sure that technology, we invest in it, because that is the only way, given that the issue of climate smart agriculture has since been adopted by our country and other countries in Africa.
What do you think biotechnology can do to food security in Africa?
Our view is that it's gonna improve food security in Africa, because what we have to do is to make sure that we invest first in the technology itself, but also be able to withstand the climate change. As you know, that last year we had a conference in Durban where we spoke about climate smart agriculture, and the issue of the utilization of technology was key. How do we make sure that we use technology to make sure that the soil that we're using, because now the farmers need to make sure that they rotate the crops, because if there is a drought in a particular area and in other areas we have got field fires, how do we use our technology to make sure that regardless of those challenges, we are able to increase our production? So our view is that biotechnology will assist us, especially when there's flooding as well. how to make sure that we can actually put something that will grow regardless. So the crop-resistant seeds also is one of those initiatives that have been introduced in this country, led by one of our agricultural research councils, to say, consider this, because our view is that if you do not improve your yield, we are not going to be in the position to feed the nation, let alone growing the sector as it were. So we are of the view that implementing the technology in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa will be able to deal with the issues of poverty and make sure that no one goes home with an empty stomach.
Very well said, and thank you very much for joining me.
No, thank you very much.
And that was Lalanipo Nkotwana, the head of Department, Gauteng Provincial Department of Agriculture and Rural Development in South Africa. And he has been speaking on how this technology has helped the agricultural sector here in South Africa to develop. Abiola Fatai, thank you very much for the email you sent in from London. You say you are impressed with Agribiotech and you are a constant viewer. You regret that Africa does not know the value of genetic engineering for agriculture. You would like us to extend the duration of the program if possible. Thank you so much, Abiola, for that email. And it's at this point we call it a day on the show. Keep the emails coming. The email address as shown on your screen is agribiotech1@yahoo.com. Send us tweets at agribiotech13 or comment on our Facebook page, Agribiotech on TVC. I am Lara Folayo. See you next time.